Hello everybody, this is Mrs. Lehman from Math with Mrs. Lehman. I am here with my second period class. Please say hello everyone. Hi! They were very anxious to do a YouTube video on lesson 10, day 2. So that's what we are working on today. We're currently on page 37, finishing up some problems that we did not finish yesterday. So here we go. We are looking at this problem that is example 2. It says, Mary is comparing the rainfall totals for May, June, and July. The data is reflected in the table below. Fill in the blanks below to create inequality statements that compare the changes in total rainfall for each month, the rightmost column of the table. So the whole point of this lesson is that you are able to write inequalities. What we will be doing on Thursday is focusing more on absolute value. So we're just simply looking at the numbers, which is the greatest and least, and we'll talk about the rest of that more later. So anyway, Mary made this chart, and it says May, June, and July, and it says this year's total rainfall in inches. Okay, we've got May 2.3, June 3.8, and July 3.7. So just a quick question, what is the rainiest month there? Joseph?
June.
June, very good. All right, we're comparing that to last year's total, right? Last year in May they got 3.7, in June they got 3.5, and in July they got 3.2, all right? And so we're talking about this year and then comparing that to last year. So this year, for example, in May, 2.3, last year 3.7, that was a change of negative 1.4. Why would that number be negative? Why would that be a negative 1.4? Zab?
It was a change of the total rainfall.
Very good. And did it go up or down? Down, yeah. It was a loss of when you compared it to the year previous. So it went down, so it's a negative, right? In June, right, last year it was 3.5, it went up to 3.8, so that's an increase of 0.3. Does everybody see what this chart is demonstrating? Yeah. All right, so anytime you see a chart, just take a few minutes to look it over, look at the columns, and make sure, and the rows, and make sure you understand what it's telling you, okay? All right, let's now write these as inequalities. It says write one inequality to order the changes in total rainfall. So what column are we looking at? Column 1, whoops, undo. I love the undo button. All right, so column 1, column 2, or column 3. What column are we looking at there? Kennedy?
Column 3.
Very good, yeah. So we want to order these from least to greatest. So what is our smallest number there? Smallest number. Josh?
Negative 1.4.
Very good. So negative 1.4. We're going to leave a space for our inequality symbols. And then what would our middle value be? Stop again.
2.3? No. 3.7.
You got to look at the last column there.
Oh, 0.3.
You got it. 0 and 0.3. 0.3. All right, so we're going to write that next. And then the biggest, obviously, is 0.5. All right, so we listed these from least to greatest, just like the example we did as a bell ringer. If we're going least to greatest, what symbol do we need? Greater than or less than, Kane?
Less.
Less than, very good. Yep, so we're going to go negative 1.4. Again, it points at the smallest number and opens the mouth to the bigger number. No teeth. All right, from greatest to least, so we need to do what with the order of these? Everybody? Reverse it or just switch it. All right, so we're going to start with 0.5. We're going to go to 0.3 and then negative 1.4. What symbol, if I'm going greatest to least, will I need in there, Zoe? The arrow's pointing the opposite way. So when you read these, you read them left to right. So it would be 0.5 is greater than 0.3, which is greater than negative 1 and 0.4. Okay? Any questions so far? Alrighty. In this case, does the greatest number indicate the greatest change in rainfall? So we said the biggest number was what number here? 0.5. This is the biggest number, right? But what number tells us that the most change actually occurred? This is hinting at what we will be doing in a few days.
Negative 1.4.
Very good. Yeah. The amount of rainfall had the most change when it dropped 1.4 inches, right, or decreased 1.4 inches. But this problem isn't really asking you to worry about that as far as inequalities, but it's tiptoeing you up to this idea of absolute value, which means the distance from zero. So obviously negative 1.4 is further from zero than 0.5. It's the biggest change for the worst. So in this case, does the greatest number indicate the greatest change? No. Negative 1.4 inches is the greatest change. Even though .5 is the greatest number. All right, we are going to turn the page to exercise 5. All right, so we're going to read each question how many times? Twice, and we are going to do what on our second time around? Logan is going to answer that question in the microphone. Logan?
Underline.
Very good. We're going to underline the keywords, okay? So it says, Mark's favorite football team lost yards on 2 back-to-back plays. They lost 3 yards on the first play. They lost 1 yard on the second play. Write an inequality statement using integers to compare the forward progress made on each play. All right, let's read that again. When you guys see something that needs to be underlined, please raise your hand and we'll underline it, okay? Mark's favorite football team lost yards on 2 back-to-back plays. They lost 3 yards on the first play. Hands are shooting up everywhere. All right, what do I need to underline there? Brent?
They lost 3 yards.
They lost 3 yards. Now, if it's a loss, what integer would we represent that with? What whole number would we represent that with? Fancy Dan?
Negative 3.
Negative 3, very good. All right, they lost 1 yard on the second play. What do you guys think for an integer there? Zoe?
Negative 1.
Very good, negative 1. Now it says write an inequality statement. Oh man, hand should be shooting up right now. All right, write an inequality statement. That's our job, okay? The rest of this is kind of just gobbledygook, all right? To compare the forward progress made on each play. All right, we're writing an inequality statement, meaning we need less than, greater than stuff going on. So let's put negative 3 down and negative 1 and compare the two. Is negative 3 greater than or less than negative 1? Raise your hand if you think greater than. Raise your hand if you think less than. All right, all the hands went up. Very good. So negative 3 is less than negative 1. If we change the order, we could say negative 1 is what compared to negative 3? Everybody?
Less than. Greater than.
I'm hearing 2 answers. Let's think about this. Is negative 1 less than or greater than negative 3?
Greater.
Greater than, yep. All right, Sierra had to pay. This Sierra lady needs to keep track of her textbooks because it says Sierra had to pay the school for 2 textbooks that she lost. One textbook cost $55 and the other cost $75. Her mother wrote 2 separate checks for each expense. I'm sure she did that very happily, not. Write 2 integers that represent the change to her mother's checking account balance. So then they ask us to write an inequality statement that shows the relationship between these 2 numbers. So we are going to read this Again, looking for keywords. So Sarah had to pay the school for 2 textbooks that she lost. 1 textbook cost $55. What do you think, Brent?
What textbook cost?
And it asks us to write an integer that represents the change to her account. So if she has to write a check, is that going to make her account go up or go down?
Go down.
Go down. So that's going to be a negative $55. I'm sure her mother loved that. All right. And then the other one cost $75. So what would that be, Kane?
Negative 75.
Very good. I bet she loved that one even more. All right. Her mother wrote 2 separate checks for each expense. Write 2 integers, which we just did, that represent the change to her mother's checking account balance. So they both made her account go down, right? So let's just compare the 2 numbers. Now, obviously, she's really probably steaming mad over this losing $75 for the 1 textbook. But it's not asking which one cost her mother more money. It's just asking you to compare the negative 55 to the negative 75. All right, so if we have negative 55 compared to negative 75, would negative 55 be less than or greater than negative 75? Everyone's thinking. Aiden.
Greater than?
Very good, Aiden. Negative 55 is greater than negative 75. Like, which one's going to cost her more money? Yeah. This is a little confusing when you think about it like that, but this question is simply just asking you to compare those 2 integers we wrote. All right, so we're not going to overthink it, even though I know where your brain's going with that. Like, obviously, you don't like writing either check, but if you're her mother, you are a little less irritated by the negative 55, because the negative 75 impacts your account more, but even though it impacts your account more, it's still just comparing negative 55 to negative 75, negative 55 is greater. All right, so if we did it the other way, negative 75 would be less than negative 55. Any questions there? Lots of wording in these questions, but we're just going to cut through the nonsense and get to what we need. All right, we've got Jason down here. Jason was not in Mrs. Lehman's math class. Because he ordered these numbers from least to greatest by writing the following statement. He said that negative 18 is less than negative 18.5, which is less than negative 70. Is this statement true? Explain. I want you kids to write it correctly right now. I'm going to pause the video while we get that done. Okay, so we have these in order, negative 18, negative 18.5, and negative 70. So we're deciding, are these from least to greatest or greatest to least? What do you guys think? Least to greatest, greatest to least. Aiden?
Least to greatest.
Least to greatest. So if you owe someone $18, for example, you have more money, or less money. I'm sorry, I said that weird. Okay, so if you have negative $18, what you are saying is that you have less money than if you owed somebody $70? You're wrong. Think about this. If it's, this is ridiculous. These are ridiculous numbers, but let's say it's 18 below 0. Is that going to be colder or warmer than negative 70 below 0? You got to think how they compare it. Which one's going to be furthest left on the number line? Which one's going to be higher or lower? You got to think about it, where they are on the number line. You want to change your answer, Aiden? You just had I don't know if you could hear him. Okay, go ahead.
Wait, what?
Right, do you want to put greater than or less than?
Greater than.
Greater than, very good. Because if you were to put these on a number line, negative 70, you're going to have maybe, negative 20 here. So negative 18 is going to be like right around there. And then negative 40, negative 60, negative 80, right? The further left it is, the less it is. So this one right here, negative 70, right there, is going to be much smaller than negative 18. Does that make sense, everyone? All right. Let's, excuse me. All right. Let's do this the other way. Negative 70, negative 18.5, negative 18. So now we listed these from least to greatest or greatest to least. Josh?
Least to greatest.
Very good. They're least to greatest, so therefore what sign or symbol, I should say, do we want to put in between there? Less than or greater than? So we'd say negative 70 is either less than or greater than negative 18 and a half. Which one would make sense? Is that a hand up, Joseph? All right, go ahead.
Greater than?
Negative 70 is
Oh,
greater. Less than. I'm hearing both answers. You got to pick one. Less than? Final answer?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you are correct. So negative 70 is less than negative 18.5, which is less than negative 18. All right, let's look at this next one. I'm going to have the kids independently write a real world situation that is represented by the following inequality. Negative 19 is less than 40. Explain the position of the numbers on the number line. Okay, Kane has a good example here that he's going to read for us. So go ahead, Kane.
In New York, it was negative 19 degrees Fahrenheit. In Texas, it was 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Very good, thank you. All right, so where would negative 19 be on a number line compared to 40? What, Kennedy?
It would be farther on the left.
Very good, yeah. So numbers to the left are less on a horizontal number line. On a vertical number line, which one would be lower? Sab? Negative. Make sure you say negative. Negative 19. Okay? All right, nice job. So everyone has their own example written down. We've shared a few. We are going to move on. All right, we did this problem for bell ringer, for a bell ringer. We are going to, whoops, I'm going to try not to mess that up. And I'm going to undo whatever I did. Okay, let's see if I can do that again. Take two. Annoying. All right, take three.
It's better than Miss Rob's because her smartboard blew, like, it went pop really loud and her smartboard blew off.
All right, let's look at your homework from yesterday, okay? Thank you for the fun little side note there. We did the first one together. All right. Let's see, what do we have left? Oh, we are in a perfect spot. Okay, so we're going to go over this. Your homework tonight is going to be page 41. And we're just going to go over this right now. So what I would like you to do is keep track of the ones that you got right and the ones that you got wrong. Obviously fix the ones that you've gotten incorrect, right? But just maybe put a little dot next to the ones that you needed to work on, okay? All right, here we go. For each of the relationships described below, write an inequality that relates the rational numbers. So number one, it says 7 feet below sea level, and we talked about this one yesterday. Below sea level told us that 7 would be a positive or negative? Negative, right? And then that is farther below sea level than 4.5 feet below sea level. So that also would be negative. Yep, negative 4.5 right there. So if we are comparing the two, negative 7 compared to negative 4.5 is what? Negative 7 is, everybody? Very good. All right, number 2 says 16 degrees Celsius is warmer than 0 degrees Celsius. So we have 16 compared to 0. 16 is? Very good, greater than 0. 3½ yards of fabric is less than 5½ yards of fabric. So we have 3½ is less than 5½. They told you, okay? So less than, again, it points at the little guy, okay? How are you guys doing so far?
Good.
Would it be incorrect if somebody, I mean, really, this one's written right out for you, but it technically wouldn't be wrong if somebody wrote it this way as well. Okay? I don't know why you would, but I'm never too surprised. All right, a loss of $500. Loss means that's going to be a what? Negative. Very good. Negative 500. That is worse than a gain of 200. Gain would be positive 200. So we're going to compare negative 500 compared to 200. All right, negative 500 is less than. Very good. All right, a test score of 64 is terrible. A test score of 64 is worse than a test score of 65. And a test score of 65 is worse than a test score of 67.5. So they gave us 3 numbers, right? So we can do this. We're in 6th grade now. Mommy, wow, we're in 6th grade now. That's like, remember there's a diaper commercial. Yeah. Anyway, we can do 3 inequalities now. Woo. All right, anyway. These are horrible grades, the kid just said. All the more reason to make test corrections, people. All right. So we have them in order. 64 is worse than, so this should be less than. 65 is less than 67.5, and they are all less than good. All right. The other thing here is making sure all your arrows are pointing in the same direction, and that will happen if you have done this correctly and listed them from least to greatest. Number 6, in December, the total snowfall was 13.2 inches, which is more than the total snowfall in October and November, which was 3.7 and 6 and 1500 inches, respectively. What do I have to do with these 2 numbers down here, the 3.7 and the 6.15? What do I have to do with those numbers? Did anyone just write an inequality with the 3 numbers? Did anyone do that? All right. If you read that carefully, it's asking you for the total snowfall for those 2 months. So what do I have to do to find the total of those 2 months? Everybody, what should you do? Add them. Very good. All right, so we're going to add 3.7 and 6.15, lining up the decimal point. All right, 0 plus 5 is 8. 8 is the answer. All right, bring down your decimal point. 3 plus 6 is 9. So we are comparing 13.2 to 9.85. All right, 13.2, is that greater than or less than 9.85? Everybody? Very good. So they got more snow in December than both of those other months combined. All right, we skipped this middle section, and we are on number 12 now. It says fill in the blanks with the numbers that correctly complete each of the statements. 3 integers between -4 and 0. Integer means what? Whole numbers, yeah. So what whole numbers could that be?
Negative, -3, negative.
Very good. All right, so let's put these over here. So what is the smallest number?
-1, -3.
I'm hearing every answer possible. Which one's furthest left or furthest down on the number line?
-3.
-3, kids. All right. If they're negative, remember it's the opposite of what it would be on positive. All right. 3 rational numbers. Rational means it could be any number that could be written as a fraction, or a ratio. So essentially, it's looking for all the numbers. It could be an infinite number of things between 16 and 15, but you just had to come up with 3. All right. So you can't use 15 because it has to be between 15 and 16. So what do you guys think, Kane? 15.5. 0.25, 15.25. What would be another one that would be bigger than that? Zoe? I'm sorry, Tyler? Very good, 15.5. And what would be bigger than that? Kennedy?
15.7.
Very good, 15.7. Now, you could have different numbers, but you need to make sure they're in order from least to greatest. All right? Same thing for number 14, 3 rational numbers. Between -1 and -2, so maybe it would be -1.8, -1.5, -1.3, okay? And then 3 integers between 2 and -2, They have to be whole numbers. So let's do -1, 0, and 1. All right. Thank you for watching Math with Mrs. Lehman. The homework tonight is page 41. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye.